Workers' compensation is an insurance that for most of us is required by law. Now, of course, every state has very specific rules and regulations, so it's really important to check with your taxing authority. But for the most part, workers' compensation rates are based on payroll. QuickBooks has a feature that allows us to track workers' compensation automatically within the system. I'd like you to keep in mind that this requires the enhanced payroll. If you are using the basic payroll, this feature is not available. The first thing we need to do with workers' compensation is actually turn it on and set it up. I'd like to talk about that component first. Let's go to Employees, and under Employees you will notice a section for workers' compensation. Here I can go straight over to set up workers' comp. You'll notice right in the wizard it tells me you'll need the name of your workers' compensation insurance carrier, your policy number, your job classifications, and experience modification factor. Now for each of us, our employees will be broken down into codes which correlate to rates. You will need to find out these codes before proceeding. The idea here is that a clerical worker is not prone to injury anywhere near as frequent as, say for instance, a roofer. As a result, the codes for a clerical and roofer are different, so too are their corresponding insurance rates. This is what we'll need to set up in QuickBooks. Second, in many states, if we have a good record, we are given a modification factor. This means we're given a discount on our insurance. You'll need to find this out from your insurance carrier. Once I have the information, I can simply hit Next. Now we'll go in and choose our insurance company. We'll just say hypothetically in this case that my insurance company is going to be the accounting firm. And of course I would put in my policy number. Now it's always a good idea to reference the policy number so you know exactly what insurance policy is being paid. Going to the next screen, it will now ask what the codes are for each of these employees. When I go to the workers' compensation, I will have the ability to add a new code. Let's say for instance I'm going to put in code 1500, and that's simply going to be for clerical workers. So I'll type in clerical, and I'll give a rate of, say for instance, $2.10. Now traditionally this rate is per $100 of gross wages. You'll note now that QuickBooks wants to know, when are you starting this? Keep in mind it tends to be from this point forward for payroll. So if you're setting this up new, I encourage you to set it up at the end of a quarter. This makes your record keeping so much easier. We always try to set anything up new in accounting right on the quarter break where our paperwork is a little cleaner. With that known, I'll just for instance choose that on January 1st I'll start this insurance rate. I'll simply go ahead and say OK, and I'll need to do this for each employee. If for instance Deborah is the owner of our firm, she would be exempt from workers' compensation, and I would select exempt. Now, even though these employees would not all be clerical, for the purpose of this example, I'm just going to select the clerical so that we can go to the next screen of the setup. When I hit Next, it now wants to know if I do use an experience modification factor. I'm going to go ahead and say no, I pay 100%. Following screen wants to know if I ever pay overtime wages. I'm going to say nope, I do not pay overtime, and then it wants to know where it's going to actually put the workers' compensation information, and I'm just going to call it workers' comp. It has now successfully completed the setup. I can now go ahead and finish, and when I finish I'm ready to set up workers' comp. If I go to our list and go down to our payroll item list, the one thing that you will notice is we now have a workers' compensation item that was not there a moment ago.